Okay. Oh, God.
It gives Anthony a little touch of,
What?
you're just passing it down, everybody touching it as it went down to you.
At the end
Yeah.
of the line, huh?
Yeah.
I have a dry hacking cough and a fever, Anthony. Just kidding. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and call to order this special city council meeting. Date is March 17th, 2020. Time is 4:05 p.m. Location is 65 Stone Street. If I can have, Chief, if you can do our invocation for us, and Councilwoman Cost, if you can lead us in pledge. If I can please have everyone stand.
Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together as men and women, Lord, when it concerns the city's business. We pray for the thousands affected by this emergency medical condition that we're going through throughout our country. We pray for the families, we pray for those individuals, and we ask, Lord, that you continue to put a hedge of protection around our first responders, our city council, as they prepare to make decisions to help protect our community, and most of all, Lord, our community. Thank you, Lord, for all that you do, Lord. Keep us safe. In your holy name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Goins.
Here.
Councilmember Bover.
Here.
Councilmember Cost.
Here.
Councilmember Warner.
Here.
City Attorney Garganese. City Manager Takanich.
Here.
Assistant City Manager Fuhrer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're gonna move on to our second meeting topic, which is gonna be the first one, which is a coronavirus discussion. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you know, at the last city council meeting, you adopted a resolution providing some flexibility as it relates to the procurement policies for the purposes of acquiring specific items that might be necessary in furtherance of protecting the health and safety of our employees, as well as the members of the public who interact in public areas of our public facilities. Just want to be able to give you an update, and absent a declaration of by this council of a local state of emergency, of which I should add, on Saturday, Brevard County issued a local state of emergency, and they indicate that it covers both unincorporated and incorporated areas. And we did receive word just prior to this meeting that there has been a Florida DEM assigned event number, and it'll get placed in there, and that'll be used for the purposes of processing items through FEMA. And we're currently, staff and our federal lobbyists, you saw the update last night, are watching, what's happening in Washington in terms of the bill to provide some relief as a result of this current, situation. So again, the city's top priority is to protect the health and safety of the employees, to ensure that we can continue to operate and provide services to our citizens. We've done a number of measures. As if anybody's walked in, you've seen the wash stations on each side. We've also established 6-foot boxes for customers to stand in line, and have requested that they maintain, for the purpose of social distancing, and to be kind of out of that range, that cone for the coughs and sneezes. And then just to update you, and I want to apologize, the form says 7 p.m. of last night, but it's actually 2 p.m. of today. There's 192 total positive tests in the state of Florida. which 173 are Florida residents, 19 non-Florida residents, and there's one Brevard County case that's a presumptive positive that's reported. There's been 6 Florida deaths. There's been 942 negative test results, and 872 are pending. And there's about 558 Florida residents currently, being monitored. If any member of the public, experiences the symptoms in terms of respiratory illness, there's respiratory issues, the cough, the fever, they need to, and the shortness of breath, they need to contact their primary care physician, or use telehealth if you have that, through your insurance company. And then they, based on that, phone screening, they may direct you to contact the Department of Health for the purposes of testing. And the phone number for the Brevard County Department of Health is 321-454-7101. You could also call United Way at 211, which connects to the EOC. And so, with that, we've provided you some information, in terms of the criteria for the testing. That's pretty available just generally across the board to the public, but just want to update you on where we are staffing-wise and what the city has been doing to, in the last probably week or so, a little bit more than that. But just from a staffing, the city continues to evaluate our personnel policies related to absences, key personnel, and the potential for employees to telecommute. IT continues to test the ability to implement telecommuting options. I'm going to go over a couple of that. Currently, right now, we do have one employee that is telecommuting. We have established, for a leave of absence request related to COVID-19, and this could be subject to change based on the federal legislation that ultimately gets passed. Because if you read the House version and the Senate version, there's some differences, so we don't know where that's going at this point, but we wanted to have some policies in place prior to, and we think they're in alignment, but they may change. But for a leave absence related to COVID-19, the city is going to follow the departmental procedures to request time off for work or for using sick leave. In terms of leave usage related to COVID-19, we did establish a rank order. An employee must use their accrued sick leave first, their available city or wellness day, any accrued compensatory time, and then accrued vacation. And for those individuals or employees, as a result of this public health emergency, that do not have, accrued time, the city will advance the employee up to 2 weeks, that's 10 days, work days, but a total of 14 days in essence, 80 hours maximum. They'll advance that vacation or sick time, and then that advanced vacation or sick leave would be repaid through accruals once the employee returns to work. Keep in mind, a brand new employee accrues about 14 hours, a little more than 14 hours per month, 8 hours a month in sick time, and about 6.17 or something like that per month for vacation. Again, I did mention telecommuting. Requests for telecommuting work is being evaluated on a case-by-case basis. The policy is being, is under final review, as well as the approval of a telework form for the departments to fill out for the purposes of the city administration to evaluate to ensure that everybody, it's necessary at that moment. There might be certain instances where the telecommute gets kicked in because maybe an area is affected, but the area is not affected, and it's not necessary for employees in terms of, because obviously the operations of the cities are essential because the public expects, and that the city's going to be there to continue its operations. So that's being finalized. I would suspect that would be done, if not by the end of today, probably by tomorrow, and that'll be issued, to the directors, distributed. In terms of precautionary measures, I mentioned a couple of them in terms of trying to focus on those high-traffic public areas. In terms of, I mentioned previously working with our facility staff, the Public Works Director and the custodial staff in terms of the employees are responsible for their own trash, and at least, delivering it to a central location that would then enable the custodial personnel to reduce the amount of time they spend in a city facility, and then they could focus more time on, sanitizing and cleaning, the high public trafficked areas. The departments are continuing to develop their contingencies consistent with their COOP plans or their continuity of operation plans. This is unlike a hurricane. You kind of know what, I hate saying it, you know what to expect in terms of the potential. This is an evolving, and I think there's not a local government that's not going through, asking itself and running various scenarios, whether it be related to payroll and how we're going to keep the city operational in the event of an area being affected. Is it the second floor of City Hall? Is it Utilities Administration? Is it Fire Station 1? So there's just so many different scenarios that are being evaluated. It's something that's why it's an ongoing process, and staff has been meeting fairly regularly. Certain facilities we are limiting access to, such as Utilities Administration, Fleet, Public Works, and our treatment plants. And so there'll be no non-essential, no tours, just not, we'll work with the delivery companies. We've kind of discussed, like for utilities, they get 10 to 20 deliveries a day. The idea is having a location, we would like to lock the compound, or at least, but we don't have the ability right now to do that in terms of the keypad just to let somebody in. So I don't think we're at a point where the city needs to post somebody out, hire additional security personnel to post somebody out there to prevent anybody from coming in. But obviously working with our delivery folks to ensure that, after they get a truck, they take the time, they hit a wash station to minimize, potential issues. In terms of external meetings, such as maybe with consultants and things of that nature, they're being directed to go virtual, whether it be through GoToMeeting, Skype, and/or teleconferences. Internal meetings, be limited as warranted, and then IT is working on virtual options, largely, through Microsoft Outlook, using the Teams package or to do that. Travel, prior to this meeting, I sent out a memo, and I essentially canceled all travel for employees, up through May 13th. The CDC has made a recommendation related to mass gatherings, and I'll go over the specifics of that. And that extend all the way to, I think, May 11th, and May 13th, it happens to, it's 2 days after this council, 2 days after that date, council meets, and so staff would be able to provide council some more information and evaluate the operational necessity of maybe canceling further travel beyond May 13th. There's a moratorium regardless on work-related airline travel for employees, and any travel to areas where identified and known COVID cases have been reported is prohibited, based on operational needs and public health concerns, unless approved by the city manager. Say Public Works, say the fire chief has been able to secure some of the items that we've requested through the EOC and up through the state, and maybe we have to go pick them up, and Public Works, we would evaluate that, in terms of to try to minimize exposure. Mass gatherings and public meetings, the CDC, I think a lot of people have heard, they are recommending to cancel a mass gathering, and they define a mass gathering. They have now defined it as 50 people or greater. Do you cancel those, any events or, involving 50 people or greater? And then they further define it 10 people or greater for persons 65 years of age or older, or individuals with chronic health conditions. The cancellations are recommended to, for 8 weeks, which would bring you to the May 11th, 2020 timeframe. And as I mentioned, the next regular meeting of council would be the May 13th. The list of events that is canceled or postponed. It's a separate memo that I provided you from Samantha. You've got, and I know Dr. Hawkins is here with the Playhouse, but from the March 13th, 29th, there's a play Into the Woods. The YMCA breakfast already has been postponed. The spring break family picnic related to the census has been canceled, but more so possibly postponed. Friday Fest has been canceled. Duck race and car show. The duck race is going to be held digitally or online virtually, and the car show is canceled. The Cocoa Fire Department's 100th anniversary open house is postponed. In April, you have a VIP run that's postponed. There is another, I think it's a one-day showing of the Golden Steppers at the Playhouse. Trash Bash postponed. St. Mark's fundraiser postponed. Where there's 2 meetings of the Citizens Academy, actually 1 meeting of the Citizens Academy, then graduation. And those have been postponed. The Keep Brevard Beautiful plant sale postponed. Friday Fest canceled from the 24th of May. There is a musical at the Cocoa Village Playhouse. The American Cancer Society, the 25th of May. Or April, excuse me, I'm sorry. It runs from the 24th of April to May 10th. And so April 25th, American Society Relay for Life has been postponed. The 26th of April, Space Coast the Tri-Coco Triathlon postponed. And then the May 2nd, the Preeclampsia Promise Walk has been postponed. These are the public special events. Our staff has actually been working with the contacting all of our private events, consistent with the county and the CDC recommendation. Private events involving city facilities are recommended to be canceled, consistent with the CDC recommendations and as they may be revised. So city staff is recommending city council authorize full refunds, deposit and fees for those that cancel private events involving city Cocoa facilities. And at this point, I think this is a policy decision for council and authorizing that. So we would be seeking, permission to cancel all these events consistent with the CDC recommendations and the use of city facilities, and then also authorizing full refunds, deposit, and fees for those that cancel private events and do not postpone them. So that would be the first course of action, requesting council to.
So what you need then is a motion such as motion to approve canceling mass gatherings following CDC recommended guidelines in all city facilities, and to refund all deposits and monies paid by individuals for those events.
For private events,
For private
unless they
events.
postpone.
Yeah. Okay.
Which includes the Playhouse as well.
It does affect the Playhouse as a city facility, and there are, and Stacy is available to speak, but the numbers are pretty high that they have attending. So it's something that's based on CDC recommendations. Staff is recommending the cancellation and the use within the limitations of the CDC guidelines.
Okay. Well, this time I don't think it'd be an issue with anyone up here, but I'd like to, if Stacy wanted to come up and speak, because I know she turned in a card, and I know we're not doing that, but if you'd like to speak, I will allow you. Let's say a few words.
There.
Right there.
Thank you, and we have been in touch with City Manager Tip Canich before the weekend, and almost on every other day basis right now. This situation that we're in, of course, is a worldwide disaster, and I sent a very detailed report to Mr. Tip Canich
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I could add that due to the severity of this and you know, I just, and with the recommendation from the CDC, I know I would have to support that because I wouldn't want to take any chances in myself personally, so. But
Exactly.
it's wishes of the,
I made a
Counsel?
motion, but
oh, did you?
yeah, that was a motion I made.
Oh, I thought you were just getting some information. I didn't know it was a motion.
No, it was a
I'll
motion.
second it.
Okay. Any other,
We can
any more
discuss.
discussions or?
I do have a couple of questions before we vote, if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I wanted to know from the fire and police chief what extra precautions you all's employees are taking. I know the fire department always has wonderful masks and things, but police officers often respond without any protective gear at all to an emergency situation. So are we taking any steps to make sure our officers are protected? Because we're kind of short to
It's
begin
further
with.
down on there's a couple other items I'm going to discuss on
Oh,
this
okay.
and get your direction.
All right. Do you want us to go ahead and vote on this, and then we'll go on to the next item?
That would be ideal, Council.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay, we got a motion from Councilwoman Warner, a second from Councilwoman Costs. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the next item I'm going to be discussing is non-essential public meeting, such as boards and committees, district town halls, and community events. There are some cities that are actually even canceling their city council meetings. I did find that, and I think this is, I know people are waiting to see if there's can be some direction out of the Tallahassee from the governor and FDM with regard to the city council meetings. It's my understanding that like Bonita Springs, they're going to be broadcasting their council meetings live, you know, and on the web, and and they have a city meetings at, I think it's at Bonita Springs, you know, whatever their email, you know,
Like an
address.
interactive
It's so members of the public could email their questions in. They have a dedicated staff member to raise it on that item. It's just something I think, you know, while I saw it, it seemed pretty innovative. I think that the city attorney might want to have an opportunity to research and weigh in on that. So we're not recommending the canceling of any city council meetings yet, but being mindful of, you know, the CDC recommendations, at least looking at the boards, committees, any district town hall and the community events, you know, consistent with the CDC guidelines. So that would be the next directed action, as well as requesting maybe the city attorney to evaluate the ability for alternative virtual forms of meetings and the propriety or legal efficacy of doing such.
Can, John,
I'm just,
the motion we just passed, we kind of, what we said we were going to follow the CDC guidelines.
This is related to public meetings in terms of like the Code Enforcement Board, Board of Adjustment, Planning and Zoning Board, the Police, you know, Community Relations Advisory Board, the State Sustainability Advisory Committee, those official ones of the redevelopment, Diamond Square Redevelopment Agency. They did not want to meet this past week out of health concerns. So these are the more formal official ones versus special events. And
Okay, maybe
so-
I misunderstood the motion.
Yeah,
but-
well, the motion was for mass gatherings of 50 people, the CDC's recommendation under the information provided by the staff on mass gatherings and public meetings. That was the intent of my motion, that had to do with city facilities.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and
So
we're
this
not
is
in-
more directed at, you know, the city council meetings. I mean, you could, there could be a number of options. You could limit the number of, you know, some of the things that we did up there, you could potentially limit the number of seats, spread them out. You could, you know, as people want to speak, they could, you know, come in. You could limit the access. You could have the virtual meetings. I mean, I think it's just something that staff needs to come back to council and working with the city attorney's office to see what are, you know, because we obviously don't want to run afoul of the, you know, public meeting law and the sunshine, you know, meeting in the sunshine.
My biggest question, John, would be what happens if we have somebody who, you know, is waiting on a decision by the
Right,
Planning and
right.
Zoning Board or the Board of
Right.
Adjustment, and You know, I mean, those people are volunteers. We need to, I mean, I don't want somebody to have to wait on their development agreement or
For 2 months.
somebody to have to wait on, in the middle of a project for a month or 2 months before one of those boards meets. So I think we need to find a way to make those two vital boards meet, if nothing else.
But at
And,
this,
well,
but
can I
at,
ask,
but at the same time, we don't want that, that liability, so, I mean, I get it, but I mean, sometimes you just gotta make one of those tough decisions that need to be made, so.
Well, we have enough space here in the council chambers if we, you know, if they decided, and it's probably going to have to be a discussion with those board members, if they decided they wanted to meet, we could keep those board members 6 feet apart with the space that we have in here and still have an opportunity for staff to be here and participate. I mean, we can follow the social distancing guidelines in this room with a planning and zoning board or a board of adjustment. It's not like they have usually a full, you know, as long as it's not a controversial issue, we could probably manage it just fine. I just think maybe it's something we need to look at on a case-by-case basis and see what comes up. Because, I mean, most of us don't know what's, you know, what somebody may be bringing forward. Dodie may have a better idea, but I just don't want to be telling people, oh, you're not going to be able to even have your issue heard for the next 60, 90 days or whatever, you know. But by
So-
the same token, I don't want to force our volunteers to come to a meeting if they don't want to.
Again, I don't disagree. It's my understanding it's being discussed in Tallahassee, but we haven't, I don't think there's been any definitive guidance, and maybe it's an opportunity for,
And maybe the city attorney
Anthony,
can look at
yes.
having those meetings
I need for
virtual
y'all,
like
if you don't
ours.
mind, if y'all can use your lights, because,
Okay.
I apologize.
yeah,
no, that's all right. but make it-
no, I was just
Mine
gonna
was
say, in
buried.
this day and age, we should be able to meet through teleconferences or
Yeah.
video conferences. I mean, that is so easy to do, and there's so many calls for doing it out there.
Yeah.
And it's so commonplace amongst business.
Yeah,
And, I mean, Anthony, why wouldn't we? Given the fact that what we see is if we can limit up contact for at least the next 2 weeks, we can really maybe not be in control of this thing, but certainly flatten the arch, as they say.
Well, it's definitely a reasonable ask, and it's a reasonable question. The problem, let me back up. There's been some communications that I'm aware of with the governor's office to try to relax some of the sunshine law requirements in order to allow city councils to hold telephonic meetings. The legal issue is, under Attorney General opinions, you need to have a physical quorum of the body present in order to conduct the meeting. So that's an issue if you can't do it telephonically. Now, there are regulations that allow state agencies to do it, but of course local governments don't have that luxury. There's also another issue too. You know, while, you know, some on land use matters, on public hearings or quasi-judicial matters where, you know, special interests are at stake, while board members may be able to attend and some members of the public may be able to attend, there could be other individuals, interested parties that have standing for the matter, but they're shut in to the home, and if they're not allowed to attend the meeting physically and they have no other alternative way to attend, then their arguably due process rights are not being heard before final decision is being made by a board. I mean, there's a whole host of issues, totally uncharted territory. We're waiting, hopefully, that we get some guidance from the governor's office that relaxes some of the sunshine law public meeting requirements on local governments.
I was just going to say that, well, that notwithstanding, and it'll be nice for that, to get that guidance and be able to address those cases case by case. But I would hope that city business overall could continue as long as the staff continues to be in good health, that our productivity doesn't go down drastically, because we have things we need to keep moving.
Yeah.
So,
And if there's something pressing, we can always call a special meeting, you know, and that could be done if it's something that has to do with Board of Adjustment or planning and zoning board or whatever the case may be. That can be case by case whenever it comes up, so.
So the general consensus is staff and the attorney's office continue to work on this, and what I would ask you is, what do you want to do with the meeting that's proposed to come up on the 25th? Do you want it at this moment in time? I don't know, what is immediately pressing on that agenda. Maybe between now and then, we'll have a better idea.
Council meeting?
Yes.
As far as the board and committee meetings, I think we can go ahead and just cancel those for now, and if something's pressing, comes down the pipe, then we can, of course, call a special meeting. But as far as the council meeting, we'll just leave it for now until we get some more direction from the governor.
Okay.
That's the way I feel.
Still got a light on.
Councilwoman Warner.
Yeah, I'd rather, we don't know with everything else that's going on. We may have some really important decisions to make at next council meeting, and we may have nothing. So
Yeah.
let's just take it on a day-by-day basis. We know what our advertising requirements are, and we have great social media. We can let the public know what's going on minute by minute. So I'd say we just play it by ear for now.
Just keep it on the table for now, and then we'll
Yeah,
see how
take
it
it as it
goes.
comes.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
think we need to cancel.
A lot
it.
could happen in the next 2 weeks.
So, but there's a general consensus on, because with regard to the public, the boards and committees. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was just going to say, in the meantime, we'll work to find a solution for virtual meetings. That way, if it's determined that it's allowed, we could potentially roll that out. There may be some training needed for the various board members, but we'll try to make that happen.
Well, and another thing, if we get the agendas out, maybe quicker, it can help the people who may have an interest in that particular agenda. They can get those email questions and those things to us ahead of time, and so when we get to the meeting, we can have those questions. We can answer that. We can address them while we're going live or whatever the case may be, Facebook Live or whatever we need to do. I think, like Councilwoman Warner was saying, we don't want to get too far behind on, especially it's a lot of projects going on right now. We don't want to get these projects pushed back too far, so I agree with that.
But anyway, what we need right now is, we got a consensus, but we need a motion with
Put my
reference
light on,
to
because I was not,
well,
it's not going to be a,
well, what we
five-
need to do is have a motion made when it comes to boards and committees, district town hall meeting, and community events. So,
Didn't you already make that motion?
No, that was on
That
city
was-
facilities and mass gatherings.
I have my light on because I wanted just
Well,
to
I
make
was-
one comment.
yeah, but I was trying to explain something real quick,
Okay.
and then I was gonna come back to you, but go ahead, I'm done. So,
I was just going to say that, again, the recommendation is that if we're really good at this social distancing thing for the next 2 weeks, that we're going to change that curve. It's really important the next 2 weeks that everybody does their part. And the 25th is what?
2
A
weeks.
week? Oh, it's 2 weeks from now?
It's a week.
A week,
It's
yeah.
9
It's a
days,
week
8 days
from now.
That's why I was.
I would not vote to have that meeting. I mean, I would vote to cancel that meeting at this point, just because we really want to send the message to everybody that this is important, that we practice the social distancing, particularly during these next 2 weeks. We can reevaluate after that. We should do everything we can to come up to speed on communicating and operating remotely. But for the next 2 weeks, it's really important that we take this seriously. And that's what I would say. So I would vote against canceling the meet, or I would vote for canceling the meeting on the 25th.
well, the discussion was the council, the board, and committee meetings, and the town hall meeting, but they leave the council meeting on the table until we get some more direction, better direction back from the governor's office. That was my understanding of the conversation.
Are you saying
Okay, council meeting,
Are you saying that you want to cancel everything for the next 2 weeks? You want to make that solid?
I think we have to send that message, that for the next 2 weeks, we practice social distancing. Now, if we can have that meeting and still practice social distancing, fine. And if there's a special meeting we need to do, and we can figure out how to do that. But 1 week from today is
Well,
we should all
well,
be
see,
staying home.
I don't think everyone's listening to what's been said. What's been stated here is let's cancel all the boards and committee meetings for now. And if we have to have a special meeting, then we will have a special meeting to address whatever issue that might arise that's important. But with the council meeting, we would keep that on the table until we get some better directions from the governor's office. And I know Anthony was talking about some issues as well with some of the boards. So let's just keep the council meeting on the table for right now until we get some better direction. Let's not cancel it. Let's not do anything until we hear a little bit more. We got time. That's my understanding. Councilwoman Warner.
Yeah, I know that I talked to staff earlier today. The city of Cocoa Beach is having a meeting tonight as well, and they have put some measures in place to practice that social distancing. They are moving their council chambers to only allow 35 people in the room. They're moving their council and their staff to where they're 6 feet apart. But they're still able to hold a meeting and apply those social distancing rules inside their meeting chamber. They're setting up a remote outside for people who don't necessarily want to go into the chambers but want to see what's going on. So I think we've got a week before the council meeting to make sure that we could still have a meeting and practice social distancing by moving some of our chairs out, maybe separating our staff, and maybe having the department heads who aren't essential to the agenda, who have no items on the agenda, not even be here or stay in their offices and monitor the council meeting in case they're needed. I mean, we've had council meetings before, it's been a long time ago, where department heads didn't come in until they heard over the speakers that their name was being called, and look at the chief, their name was being called or their department was being addressed, and then they would come running out of their offices and come into the meeting. So, you know, there's a lot of different things we can do. My hesitation to cancel the council meeting is twofold. One, the advertising requirements. I don't want the public to be able to say, well, they canceled the meeting, then all of a sudden at the last minute they decided to have it, and I didn't have an opportunity. I thought when they canceled it, I didn't have to worry about it. So I want to leave it on the table so the public knows to pay attention that we may have a meeting. And secondly, I really do think if there is a critical agenda item that needs to be addressed, that the staff can let us know. And if the staff says, hey, we've got nothing that requires us to risk having a meeting, let's go ahead and cancel. But I do, like the mayor said, I want to leave that option open for now, and I don't want the public to have the idea that there's going to be no meeting on the 25th and then have one suddenly pop up. As far as the non-essential public meetings, the boards and committees, the town halls, all those community meetings, yes, we definitely need to cancel those for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts.
Because I don't see any board meetings inside of these next. Only thing we have is a council meeting.
Yeah, all those definitely need to stay canceled, no doubt.
Yeah, I think that's all I see.
Well, in light of the, I think, I think we got it. In light of one, following the mayor's comments, obviously work with the city attorney's office, staff will, to ascertain if there's any directives from the governor. Matt and IT is going to work on the ability for virtual meeting opportunities, and I think to dovetail as well as Councilmember Warner's, if not, is there a way to set up a process or an arrangement to encourage the social distancing? And I can already tell you that we can do audio and visual out in the hallway, and we can establish, split chairs and areas that everybody can keep their distance, and then maybe you have the podium to where, if somebody wants to come in and speak, we have somebody stationed out there, these doors open, and then as they come in, we can work on that. Okay. So we got that. So just two more things. Just want to let you all know. I mean, you probably have heard that the governor did order all bars and nightclubs to close by 5 p.m. today. Somebody asked me, I hope they can get this meeting over by 5 p.m. today, and then remain closed for the next 30 days. It's, the questions come up, who's going to be doing the enforcement. It's not the Cocoa Police Department, actually the business of business professional regulation would be doing the enforcement of that. For restaurants, they are requesting that the recommendation is that they can remain open with 50% of their seating capacity in dining areas. The parties seated at tables being 6 feet apart, and the restaurants screening all their employees for the COVID-19, which that's kind of interesting because I'm not sure you're telling them to screen the employees, but they're also saying that, publicly those COVID-19 tests are not available right now unless you fall into one of those categories. And then encouraging takeout and delivery services. Also, we'll note that the governor did establish or announce the Florida Small Business Emergency Bridge Loan Program to support those small businesses impacted by COVID-19. Community Services and Economic Development and Samantha with social media will be pushing that out and also try to assist those businesses. The last thing the city has implemented non-shut-off policy for non-payment and suspension of late fees. Not yet. We're seeking, because we need to, for the suspension of late fees, because it's not just us. Remember, we bill for other communities, so we need them to buy off on that. But as it relates to city residents, not shutting off for non-payment, and we would just need council to confirm that temporary policy for this change during this local state of emergency as declared by the county.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I have been in support of it,
Consensus.
and I know that
That's good.
even the, I guess it was it Orlando? They went a little farther, the sheriff's department, with the stop and eviction process. I don't know how that's going to work, but I saw that whole deal. So, but yeah, it's a good deal. But anyway,
Okay, so-
Councilwoman Cost and then Councilwoman Warner.
Do we have the power to stop evictions?
No,
No, that's a court and
Okay.
sheriff's office.
state court.
So how is Orlando doing it?
They may have worked with their state attorney's office and worked with the sheriff. They have a strong mayor for the county.
It's a county court
Yeah,
Okay.
thing,
so
yeah.
they may have worked together. The mayor and the sheriff. The current mayor is the former sheriff.
Yeah.
And
He's got those
second item
contacts.
is for restaurants, since several of them will be developing more of a to-go business. The suggestion was made earlier, we received an email, that if we were to set up some parking spots that were like 5-minute pickup zones, so to make that easier.
Yeah, we got the email, and I did forward the email to, I think, some other members of council. Not all members of council received it, so I did forward that, and I know Matt and others will be looking at that to follow
Okay.
up on that. So just the last thing, Mr. Mayor, just in terms of resources, the question was asked about PPE or personal protective equipment. The city, through the EOC process, has submitted some requests you see in there, as well as the city's also ordered some special masks for our public safety personnel. As we know, the disinfectant sprays and back ordered. We have some in supply as we speak. And we also have ordered the electrostatic sprayers with the disinfectant, which, 1 gallon of it, I think, covers about 35,000 square feet and kind of sanitizes it for disinfects it for like a 3-day period. So, and then IT has ordered some additional Chromebooks to accommodate for telecommuting. You've already seen and that's really it related to this item, unless you have any other questions or any other direction for council or staff.
Councilwoman Warner.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. John, on the non-payment and suspension of late fees, is that, or maybe it's the questions for Rebecca, we're going to do that inside the city starting immediately, and then we will talk to the other cities and see what they want. So for customers inside the city, we're going to suspend those late fees and non-shut off now, or do we need a policy change by the council before we can do that? I realize we can't do that for the other cities, but are we going to do it inside the Cocoa City limits starting now, or are we going to wait until we talk to all the other cities?
We were going to wait until we talked to the other cities, and my understanding of the way the computer system works,
Oh,
is
that's
that
right.
in the code for late fees, it's not inside, outside. So it would need to be all encompassing when we do that.
Okay, and the
We
same,
don't have the ability to distinguish on the late fees inside, out.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, what about for the shut-offs? We do have the ability.
Shut-offs would discontinue in here.
Okay, well, if I live in Rockledge and I don't pay my bill, are you going to shut me off?
No,
Okay, so that's going to apply everywhere, okay. All right, so we don't need a motion to vote on that, you guys are good with that? Okay, on the non-essential public meetings, I feel like we kind of left that open-ended. I mean, we had kind of a consensus, but do you want a motion on that to make it very clear and specific?
Well, I think Deputy Mayor brought up a good point. In the next 2 weeks, there's really none
Yeah.
of these meetings
And that's
scheduled, so.
What I got
maybe
out of that
between now and
discussion
then,
was that for the
everything
next
can-
2 weeks, we're not going to have any public meetings of our boards or committees or town hall or any of that. We're going to take the city council meeting on a day-to-day basis, but then after 2 weeks, provided things are better and some of these directives from the CDC relax, we will go back to the public meeting. So this is only a 2-week period we're looking at, right?
That would be our recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear.
Deputy Mayor Goins.
I forgot my train of thought now.
I'll go ahead, I got something.
Go ahead.
I've been listening to a lot of stuff that's been going on, and as you know, there's a huge homeless population out there. And the question was, as far as the quarantine shelters, are there any for your homeless personnel if they say, you found out that one of them is infected and of course they live in a camp? I mean, what's out there? I haven't heard anyone talking about it, or if there's.
I think it's been discussed,
just
but
curious.
we'll certainly, looking at the chief, who's our primary EOC contact, raise that issue on our next call, which will be tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and raising the issue about the homeless population. It's a very good point, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, because there's some huge camps out there, and I just,
What about the only shelters we have, though, Mr. Mayor, are not going to want somebody who's infected in them because they're also distributing food and clothing and diapers, and so, like the Sharing Center and our churches, they're definitely not going to want people
Yeah.
infected in there. So it sounds to me like this is something the county's going to have to,
and a
Take
lot
a
of the
long look
shelters
at.
out there are now, with the individuals that are there, they are not allowing them to come back, some of them.
Yeah.
I can't identify all of them, but I know a few of them are doing that now, so.
yeah, it's pretty
So.
scary out there right now.
Okay, I'm ready now.
Deputy Mayor.
It was two things. The first one was the wash station that we have inside the lobby. Isn't that water that we use in that? Isn't that recycled water? So is that a?
No,
doesn't that water, or is it? It's plugged in?
There's two separate tanks. So there's a wash tank and then there's a wastewater tank.
Okay, all right. Because the one on the construction site is not that way, so
This is not a construction site.
it's a little different. I'm sorry about that. The second one was Emma Jewell Charter Academy is and several other schools in Brevard are helping kids that can't afford food during this time, because I think now they're doing 2 weeks out of school. Brevard County has designated certain schools around Cocoa, but we have none in this central part of Cocoa. So Emma Jewell sent out a request. They didn't get an approval as of yet, but they're going to go ahead and provide food to the community, not just for their kids. And I know at one time we did a interlocal agreement or interagent agreement with them to assist them with food. I want to see if we can entertain that again, possibly. He hasn't called me and asked me for that, but I do know if they don't get approved, they won't be getting reimbursed. So they're not just providing, again, just for their kids, they're going to be providing grab-and-go lunches for breakfast and lunch. So I know that's going to be costly depending on how, how long we go with out of school. I don't really know how that's going to go. But it's a lot of kids out there that need assistance. So,
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry. I took a call right before we walked in, which is part of the reason why I came in late, from some of the staff at Endeavor. Cambridge Elementary is going to be the distribution center. And Endeavor is looking at, they're in talks right now with the superintendent to see that after this first week, if they can start to do some distribution there, because they already have some product on campus and they're expecting another delivery. What they ask is that we mentioned that volunteers may be needed. The meals that are being passed out at Cambridge are going to cover all of the Cocoa schools from Cocoa High to Saturn, Emmanuel. The smaller private and charter schools that we have will also be included. However, they know that not every parent has transportation, and they were looking at some of the Endeavor parents who don't have the transportation to get over at Cambridge. So they're trying to set up a system where maybe they can have certain numbers of people pick up at Cambridge and bring them to where it'll be closer for the parents in the Endeavor district or the Emmanuel district that do not have transportation. They will be given 2 meals per child per day. So we probably are going to need some volunteers with vehicles to go over to Cambridge, pick up meals for Emmanuel students and for Endeavor students and get them. They're actually looking for drop-off points now, central locations for the parents, because they're not going to be able to bring them to the school, at least not at Endeavor.
They're going to be for parents and kids, or just for the kids?
Well, but the meals are just for the kids,
kids.
you know, so, but they're looking for a centralized point where parents, and there are a lot of parents in that Endeavor district and probably Emmanuel too that have no transportation
Okay.
to get over to Cambridge
Yeah,
and
you're
pick
right.
up stuff.
You're right.
So they're looking at that, and I mean, they even may want to look at SCAT to see if, you know, a bus run is possible to get them
That's a good
over
point.
there, because I don't want to see any kids go hungry because their parents don't have a vehicle and
Yeah.
can't get over to get them a meal. So, but we'll be hearing more from Endeavor about their plans in the next couple days. They just wanted to give us a heads up that they may need some volunteers.
Okay, all right, appreciate that. I'll pass that
Let me
word.
just add to some information that I got just before the council meeting, right at the start of the council meeting, from Mr. Cole. And this is what he sent me. In an effort to support our scholars' nutritional needs during school closure, we will offer hot lunches daily from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. starting Monday, March the 23rd through Friday, March the 27th. In order to maximize social distancing, please bring through the Emmanuel car loop, and lunch will be brought out to your car. So they're going to offer if you drive through the loops there and you're a scholar, they're going to bring them out to your cars, but it's going to be hot meals. And of course, you know, Cambridge is going to be doing the lunches as well. So Emmanuel is doing something. They've reached out because they want to be one of the sites. They haven't heard back yet. He said he's going to let me know, but they are going to be doing the hot meals from 11 to 1 p.m. from the 23rd to 27th.
Did he say they might need volunteers to help get
yeah.
those meals out to the
Yes,
vehicles?
because I got a message from Cambridge as well. Yeah, they'll need some folks to help hand out some of the lunches as the vehicles come through. But you got to have the students in the vehicles with you. And this gentleman right here, you come on up, sir. Yeah.
Dave Brubaker, President CEO, Central Park Sharing Center. I heard this meeting today. It's very important to be here. I just wanted to reinforce that the Sharing Center has implemented to-go meals. Today we served 148 people. We have waived the registration, so anyone who shows will receive meals. If they say they have kids and need kids, we'll give the extra meals for the kids as well.
Okay.
We've also streamlined our emergency food pantry program to where people can come in, and we have a very short form they fill out to receive emergency food. Today we provided food for over 120 people. Yesterday, over 70 people. We continue to keep our doors open. We are making sure that we have the CDC's recommendations in place, so we have eliminated our seating. So it literally is a to-go, and we are eliminating how many people, or limiting how many people come into our office at one time. Just wanted to state that the Sharing Center is being proactive, and I will reach out to Emma Jewell to see what we can do to help them distribute their food as well.
Good,
Yes.
good.
How are you
Thank
doing on donations, Dave? You?
Well, it's a perfect storm right now. We're not getting donations right now.
Okay.
We have implemented some strategy. We've reached in our pocket. We just spent about $5,000 earlier this week with Second Harvest to make sure that we have enough food on hand for at least the next month so that we can continue to provide that emergency food service. We are still going to the grocery stores, the Publix, Aldi's, Targets, Walmarts, you name it, we're there 3 days a week. And although they are limited at this time because you've been to the store, they don't have that much to donate. But that will change, and we'll start getting that back as well. So we still are able to meet the needs of those who are coming to us, but we have put a number of policies in place to, one, streamline it, and to, again, try to adhere to the CDC recommendations.
All right,
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And just remember, for everyone out there, from up to age 18, the students must be in the vehicles at Cambridge and some of the other schools. And Missoula is going to be for their scholars. But I'm sure if someone else needed some,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm not
sure
gonna
they'll
turn
reach
them
out
away.
to them. So, did you have something else?
No, I'm good.
Councilwoman
I just
Cox?
wanted to say one other thing. So we just have one employee that's telecommuting?
At this moment, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because I know we have Office 365 and we have SharePoint, and I've used that before with telecommuters, and I mean, there are lots of ways to monitor efficiency. So we really are, we're in a good place to transition to this. So hopefully we can get a report when those numbers pick up, okay?
Yeah, we'll continuously update the council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. We're going to move on to our second item here, transition of the city manager. Mr. City Manager.
I've had the opportunity to speak with pretty much all of you, and at the request of a member of City Council, recognizing the need for a smooth and quick transition to provide stability, specifically at the outset of the COVID, public health emergency that the city's currently facing, not knowing the duration of it, the beginning of the budget season, the process to begin the police chief recruitment. We have a PBA in terms of the lieutenants. Their contract is up, that needs to be negotiated, as well as the rank and file PBA is seeking a wage reopener. And then there's the city strategic plan, as well as a number of other projects, the Sustainability Advisory Committee, the plan review by staff, parking, that issue, the 603 Brevard redevelopment, the desire, I understand, with the unknown in terms of waiting 90 days. And so you've been presented as a mutual separation agreement as prepared by the city attorney that will, where I would forego any of the process that's arguably set out in the charter in terms of, for termination. This is an agreement of, I guess it's an agreement of convenience. Is that what you would call it, Anthony? You want to explain it a little bit?
As you requested, this is a mutual separation agreement. Mutual separation agreement is that both parties mutually agree to do something. In this case, the city council and the city manager, if this agreement were approved, would mutually agree to terminate his contract effective today, rather than wait until September 30th, which is the current expiration date of his employment agreement with the city. So it's, I guess you could call it mutual termination by agreement or convenience. It's just it's parting of the ways by agreement.
I understand the need for a quick and smooth transition and the stability, and having one person that's making decisions and going forward and having the unknown of of the notice. So I've been asked, and I'm not opposed to this agreement. I've enjoyed working with this council, former councils, the staff, and if it's in the best interest of the city, to have that stable leadership and that continuity, then I think what you would, my recommendation that you would approve the agreement I would recommend that you appoint Matt, the interim, subject to authorizing the city attorney to negotiate an interim city manager contract with Matt. And then as well, we've already, Tammy has already spoken, and there's been 2 firms that we've spoken to provide you quotes for executive search firms so you can get the process underway to find your next city manager.
Thank you, sir.
Question.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Councilwoman Warner.
Couple questions, one for Anthony. Paragraph 7, Anthony, just 2 questions about that. One, does this work both ways, first of all? And secondly, should the city manager at some future point be asked to give a deposition or a subpoena, how does this paragraph affect that?
One, the non-disparagement is one way. This is a standard agreement we've used on many other occasions. It's one way. With respect to depositions, of course, if somebody is deposed, they're required to testify truthfully.
Okay, all right. In that case, then, I would like to make a motion that we accept this agreement, appoint Matt the interim city manager, and direct the city attorney to work on a agreement with Matt, and bring that forward to the council for our approval, and direct HR to bring us the information that we need to move forward with the selection of a new city manager.
I got city attorney, can you explain to me about paragraph 8?
Paragraph 8 is lifetime health insurance paragraph. The city has a lifetime health insurance policy with respect to executive management team, as well as city employees that were hired prior to like 1992. But there's an executive management team lifetime policy, health insurance policy, which is for health, dental, and vision. The city manager's current employment contract addresses the lifetime health insurance. The city manager and other members of the executive team are eligible for that benefit. And the way the contract is written, if the city council were to terminate the city manager for convenience, the contract would require that the city manager receive the lifetime benefit. In addition, if the city manager, if it meets the eligibility criteria, and I believe he would, eventually under the term of the existing contract, I believe, John, correct?
That's correct.
So even when, because he's going to get hired, right, by some other municipality or whatever. So
This benefit
so we
is
still
already,
pay lifetime insurance and health insurance, or life insurance and health insurance, even
Dental,
when he
vision,
gets
health.
hired by another, because I know he's going to get hired quick.
but this benefit is not, this paragraph's not
Yeah.
accruing any special benefit. It's a benefit that I'm already eligible for.
Okay.
Based on my notice
in your
and within
con-
90
your contract,
days.
too.
Correct.
So,
It's just
And-
stating what is already there.
And he wouldn't be the first former city manager to have this benefit.
If you don't mind turning your lights on.
no, he would not. I believe Rick
Mr.
Holt,
Holt has this benefit, yes.
Correct.
right? So, I mean, this is not a
Are you done?
this is not a special policy related only to the current city manager. This is a policy that's been in place for all employees going back to the 80s, I believe, and it applies for, to all employees that were hired prior to 92. I think that was the date. Going on.
January 11, 1992.
Right, and then the executive management team.
I'm second Brenda's motion.
Deputy Mayor Goins.
Well, I know it's a part of the old contract. I know that's part of the. I just don't understand it, I guess. If if me, on my job, and my dad fires me, right, and I go to Walmart, when I get hired by that new employer, I'm under their insurance and life insurance and health insurance. So why would the city of Cocoa still be liable after being hired once the contract is done?
Yeah.
That's just I don't understand. I'm just
The retire, the
so
way
it's not nothing to do with John. It's
Tammy
just
can probably, she handles the mechanics of it. My
Yeah,
recollection
like the
is, once a
50% too.
retiree meets the eligibility requirements, then they're, for a lifetime, they're permitted to stay on the city's group health insurance, dental and vision.
For normal and
Right.
disability retirement, there's different
And
provisions.
normal,
Each plan has different definitions of normal retirement. Typically, it's when the person is collecting that pension benefit upon separation. The difference between the city manager's agreement is there's an agreement in place that he receives his benefit upon separation, and it outlines different criteria and or circumstances where there's only one provision that it wouldn't be eligible, and he's not separating in that type of separation. So,
Yeah,
so he would
and
be
that's
eligible
something
based on the
for, yeah, and that's
agreement.
something for future discussion, because that's a really sweet deal for anyone that's a part of the executive team if they have met that criteria. And I just, to me, I've never believed that the city or anyone should be liable and responsible for doing something like that for the life of someone. I just, my personal feeling. But anyway, Councilwoman Koss?
I was just going to say that I first became aware of it when we got John's contract. I was kind of shocked by that benefit. I was shocked by that benefit and the liability that it applies to our children. But this isn't really the
It's
time
only
to talk about it.
individual. It doesn't apply, it's not family coverage, it's just myself.
that's what it
When I
is.
leave,
But I
I'll have
meant to
to
all the
pick up
directors.
dependents and all that.
I meant for all the directors
Okay.
have that now. So at some point, and I understand
I got it. She's
there was
yeah,
an
but we-
incentive in place, but that we can also find other incentives to attract people.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Warner?
Yeah, I had a motion on the floor.
I know, we were just having a
yeah, we can
discussion.
still have a discussion after it's being second.
Well, the
But anyway-
motion wasn't acknowledged, that's
Right,
why I,
We got a motion from Councilwoman Warner, second from Councilman Bover. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now, can I get a motion to adjourn? Or is there something else?
Mr. Mayor, prior to adjournment, consistent with this agreement, there's a 7-day revocation period, and then 3 business days after that revocation period, the city would need to complete the payouts in accordance with Section 6 of the agreement,
No, 20 weeks.
which puts you, 7 days puts you at next Tuesday, 3 days from that, Thursday, Friday. I'm a little bit concerned that that may not be enough time to process, move the funds necessary. They're currently not budgeted, so we would need city council action to approve a budget adjustment in order to accomplish that. We can, if you authorize city staff to complete that, the payouts would need to be calculated, and then at the next meeting, if that's March 25th, we could bring that back before you all, so you could see it. But we would need authorization to do that now.
So you're looking for a motion to authorize a budget transfer for those funds
Yes.
out of fund balance?
And we would be seeing all of those, we would receive copies of.
Yeah, just like you would with any other purchase the city has made, we'd bring that back in the form of a budget amendment.
And Matt, also on the executive search firm too, isn't budgeted, so.
Yeah, the other consideration is for an executive search firm, if you would like the city to bring back the quotes
Proposals.
related to that.
Yes, that would be the direction, yes.
Okay.
All right. So the process moving forward, right? So we just made the motion to make Matt
Well,
the interim city manager. So what's the process moving forward after that? Like as far as dates, as far as timing, as far as, because I'm just the type of person, I don't like to be in the unknown.
Well, that was part of my motion for staff to bring forward that executive search.
So by the
information.
next,
So our next
meeting-
meeting, we can start to move forward.
by the next meeting.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the effective date of termination is today. Right?
Correct.
Yes.
And we can move forward with the revocation period to process the payouts as soon as
Yes.
payroll allows it. The budget amendment will bring it back. I did talk to one executive search firm today. They did have they caution with the coronavirus. They said that could impact getting the ball going. But I just wanted to let you know that was feedback from one firm, but we're going to have to get quotes from 3 based on the estimate. It'll most likely be in the $30,000 range.
Okay, so you need a motion, Matt, to, for that.
Make a motion to make a proper budget transfer. To you?
Yeah.
For budget transfer, correct?
Budget amendment, taking money out of fund balance to provide funding for the city manager's payouts.
What Rebecca said.
Okay, we got a motion from, Councilman Bover. Was there anything else you needed in that, Matt? That was it, right?
That's it. We will have the proposals back for your consideration.
And that will be added in there as well,
And
right?
we'll work with Anthony to develop an agreement for Matt as interim and bring that back to you as well.
Yeah, that was it, yeah. We got a motion from, Councilman Bover. Need a second?
Second.
Second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. We have a motion to adjourn from, by Councilman Bover and a second from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.